Welcome to episode 396 of the Tilehurst podcast. We are here after another, middling week, really. Pick-up point on the road against Stevenage at the Lamex Stadium, which is a very nice stadium to say, which was followed up, of course, by a win against Newport in whatever cup it's called these days, the Garage Cup, Pizza Cup, whatever you call it. Doesn't matter. We're in the next round of that particular competition after what was, on paper, a fairly comprehensive result against the Exiles. Here to discuss those games and kind of just stuff, really. Like we're just shooting the breeze on this one, as people say, as youngsters say. We're gonna kind of get into the nitty gritty of those games, but we've got a bunch of other stuff to talk about. Ross, you are. I'm trying to think of a question I can ask you. Let's go with the topical one because there was loads of questions we could have done. If you were a ticket price, how much would you be?
If I was a ticket price, let's just go £5. Entry for all, $5, $5 dues.
What is the conversion rate these days? What is it? $1 to you don't know.
I don't know. No. I don't know. I can't do Fahrenheit to Celsius or any of that kind of nonsense either. No, I'm useless with all of that kind of stuff. I can just about remember that we're 5 hours behind, and that's about it. So you guys, when it gets to like that part of the year when we're only 4 hours behind, it's just tragic for me. My brain, I don't have any of my conversions down. So, but no, £5, $5 dues.
£5 Well, we're going to talk a little bit about the ticket prices because it's really kicked off again, hasn't it? To be honest, on the old social media sphere and just in general, it's all coming to a head again, really. Unfortunately, so we're gonna talk about that a little bit later on. Huge thanks as always to our sponsors, ZCZ Films. You can watch Valdemar's, I say new series. I think it's still going, isn't it? The Art Mysteries, 10:15 on Sky Arts on a Wednesday.
There we go.
Nice. Check that out. I think he messaged. He's in Japan at the moment, which is kind of cool. He's filming something else. He's everywhere. We don't do half-hearted sponsors on this show. They really give it the beans for us. So we'll give it the beans back.
I was just checking off and making sure that you got all of the parts down that time. What time it airs, what channel it's on, what day it airs, just to make sure we filled in.
I could have just said 10:15, and then everyone would. It's a rerun. So Wednesday, the 27th of November, season 2, episode 1, The Art Mysteries, and that you can watch that. It's got subtitles, it's got audio description, it's got all those things that you'd expect for a TV show of premium quality. So check it out. 10:15, next episode, rerun episode, Wednesday the 27th of November. We are going to talk about the Borough, hard-earned point, depending on who you believe, on the road after this short break.
Come rain or shine, it's time to relive the latest match action with the recap.
This podcast is sponsored by ZCZ Films, Reading's oldest ultras.
Right, welcome back to episode 396. Ross has just made me laugh in that break, which is why there was a bit of huffing and puffing.
Just given how much of an unprofessional joke of a podcast we are, I was just impressed that we got all of the details out this time. Unprofessional joke, a podcast, website, Twitter page, and Blue Sky now. I'm just going to get that out.
Wow, big news. Big news, man. We are on Blue Sky.
We are.
Do you know, funny story about that, actually. So I saw people started to go on this thing or whatever. And I was like, why are Sky calling themselves B Sky B for a social media thing? And then I realised it was just Blue Sky. So we collective body, as Ross alluded to just then, are on Blue Sky. I have yet to download the app, but I will do at some point, I guess, if you want to follow me. Have you already downloaded it?
Yeah, I've got a buddy right now who's coming to all of our games and practices and things and taking photos. Right. Suddenly have more access to very vainglorious sets of photos of me in athletic gear than ever before. So I needed a new profile to post those to. Great, here we go. So Yeah, there's a
I
website.
can't keep up with it. I just can't keep up with it all. But Blue Sky is the new place to be. If you are on
Yeah,
Twitter, it's a bit of a cesspit at the moment. It's not great, and I don't know if that's going to get better or it's going to get worse, or I don't know. I'm not sure. I just like looking at pictures of cats on Twitter. So
mm,
that's what I try and fill my feed with. But yeah, and if you're not on social media and you're going, where the hell is my analysis of a hard point on the road against a lower table team, then you're in luck, because we're going to do that right now, aren't we, Ross?
there we go.
You watched that one, didn't you? What was your overall thought on that point? I keep
I
saying
did.
point. Everyone knows we've got a point.
Yeah, no, we got a point. And as we said a few weeks ago, if you want to have a good season, you win your games at home and you get a point on the road. So I'm watching now delayed because I'm out coaching during the first half of games, which means that ratings are coming from elsewhere at the moment, which is a bit of a shame because I like doing them. But what can you do? Everything I saw before I watched the game were people kind of saying that they were not necessarily not upset with the point, because again, when you get a point on the road is good, but felt like Reading could have done more. And so before I watched it, I took a look at the XG. Reading generated more XG in this 1-1 draw with Stevenage than they did in the 4-1 win over Crawley a few weeks ago. Now, obviously, the Lewis Wing goal that was hit from, I don't know, France or something. That was hit in that particular game.
Did you say hit from France?
Yeah, hit across
I,
the channel.
I said downtown, I think, in my column. Lewis Wing from downtown.
From downtown. It's very
Yeah.
NBA Jam. It's very good. So Reading, from that perspective, just looking at the statistical perspective, I guess you could say, yeah, it was surprising that they didn't win this one. I think that the second half in particular was really good for Reading in this game. I did think they were having some issues in the first half. And I think that, some of those were around Garcia, and just other ones were around how Reading were maintaining possession of the ball at times, not really doing a great job of that. Dorset came on at halftime, which was really positive. I thought he was excellent. Really he just showed what we've been missing from him in the last few weeks. Provided a bit of solidity, sort of as a wing back, or not wing back, as a fullback who can go into like the center of the field or out wide. I just think that we've been playing with Garcia now for a while. He's really shown us some good things, and I'll talk about that a bit later. But it was really, really good to have Dorset back in this one. I also thought, while I'm picking out players, Chem Campbell was really fantastic in this game. The assist that he got for the goal is just hard graft personified. Reading have been pouring it on for a little while without really taking too many shots. But then, what actually gets us the goal is just Chem Campbell first turning his man and doing really nicely with that, but then driving in and holding a man off. So a lot of determination to get us the equaliser there.
Do you think that Campbell is turning the tide, not just in performances, consistently, but also the way in which the fan base actually see him? Because he didn't start well. I think there's always a lot of pressure, generally when you come into a club and you're kind of like the new signing. He was our only signing, and for anyone who needs a reminder and listen to this, he remains our only signing in an incredibly barren period in terms of transfer activity. Do you think that he's kind of weathered the storm there in terms of potentially having that pressure of being the only signing for us, of not playing particularly well, of filling Femi Aziz's boots, who had a very good season last season and started this one reasonably okay? Is he kind of is he sort of winning over some of those doubters from previous maybe?
Yeah, I think that's definitely. At least from like the little bits of like digital buzz that I can pick up on. It does seem that there's a little bit more acceptance of his spot in the team now. I think you're right that there's like some pressure on him as like the only signing. He knows he's coming to a club with a lot of issues off the field, and again, maybe he knew about following up Aziz. Maybe he didn't really know about that. I can't really say what's in his head there, but I think the kind of good thing about being the only signing in a group full of teenagers and academy prospects and things like that is that he hasn't started all of the games that he could since he's arrived, but he started most of them. And I think he's known that, even if it's taken him a little bit of time to get up to speed, he would have that time to get up to speed and he would get minutes in the team, which he has now done. And I think he's kind of worked out a little bit more, how he wants to help the team. We've seen him going towards the byline a little bit more in recent weeks, and trying to get a few more crosses in rather than shooting, which I think has been positive. I think it's positive that he can play on both sides of the striker as well, though. And that just means that compared to, a lot of the other options we have, he is more experienced, and he is more versatile. So yeah, I've definitely seen a few people online now calling for him to get a full-time contract if we're actually able to provide those. And so, yeah, I think that however he started, he certainly turned the tide somewhat. And I would think that partially that's down to how many minutes he's been able to get.
I guess really the other talking point from that game in Hertfordshire. Is it Hertfordshire? I think Stevenage is in Hertfordshire. Google it real quick while I'm talking.
Okay. Yeah,
I think it is.
All right.
Otherwise, I've made myself look really stupid.
Properly if you don't know, it is in Hertfordshire.
Yeah, there you go. I know crafts. I know geography. It's all good. The other talking point, I guess, really from that game is the fact that we didn't start with a recognised striker. Two questions for you, I think, really. The first one is, do you think Jayden Wareham would be a little bit miffed that he wasn't starting in that game? And secondly, how do you think Harvey Knibbs got on in what was essentially the elevated number 9 role?
It's a really good question. And the reason that's a good question is because I don't think Reading are... Reading are quite high in expected goals conceded. They're getting the 4th highest number of shots of any team in League One right now. And that's despite, playing pretty well overall, like I think most of us think, and generating a good deal of XG themselves. But I think that Reading's press isn't working quite as well as it did at this time last year, or at least during periods of last year when it was really humming along, when we started to pick up form around December and January and all those kinds of things. And I think that so far this season, the shifts in the press haven't necessarily helped us as much. I think we're like 6th or 7th maybe in the league for the most balls won per 90 in the final third. So that kind of shows you that, yeah, we're clearly a team that's still prioritizing that, but we're not maybe having quite as much success as we used to. I think that Femi Aziz's role in the press really went undersold by me as well at some points. And there have been some tweaks to try and get back to the heights it was at when we were something like first. We were within 1st to 4th of passes per defensive action throughout most of last year. I don't know if Wareham is necessarily the best presser of the ball right now. I do think that he offers a good person to play into and a very good wall passer as a striker, because he's got a big body and he can hold off guys who are bigger than him. We saw that with the Exeter goal. But I think that the idea to put Knibbs up there was just to try and fix that press just a little bit. And when Smith isn't there, it can get very disjointed very quickly. It can get very disjointed very quickly, even when Smith is there. So, yeah, I think that Wareham maybe would have been disappointed, because I think that he's had some momentum building in his career recently, and probably feels very excited about that. But I understand what they were going for here. Now, do I think that Knibbs should necessarily keep his position? Cat's here for anyone. Good time to remind everyone that you can watch these episodes on YouTube, by the way.
he wants feeding. He's literally like, I put it on mute because he was giving it the beans, and now he's like, seriously, mate, come on.
The cat's the third member of the pod at this point.
I know. I might have to. Well, I don't know where the other one is. She's probably, I don't know, sleeping somewhere.
What are the cat's names again?
So this one you just seen as Samson, who is very old now. He will be coming up for about 16, 17, I think.
Yep.
And then Kiki is the tabby tortoiseshell.
All right, nice.
Samson lady of the house. She's a nightmare.
All right,
and she's a lot younger.
And like I said, it's on YouTube for any for listeners who can't see the cat now. But anyway, last couple of things on that. Obviously, Jaden Wareham did come on for Nibs. Not for Nibs, sorry. He came on. Who did he come on for? Kamara, I think. And Nibs eventually went out left. And I do think that was a pretty good change for Reading. I do think that Wareham's really progressed as somebody that you can play into this particular season. I think that there's not too many. Again, like we talked about how like this system for strikers for Reading just doesn't allow them too many touches. And when they do get touches, they need to be economical with it. I think that at the moment with Smith out, having Nibs and Wareham in the team is probably honestly the best thing you could do. Can I add one other thing there?
Of course.
Now that Dorset, now that Dorset is back, let's say Smith's not ready to go for the next game, so we haven't got Smith or Kelvin. I think I would maybe drop one of the midfielders, whether that be Elliott or Savage, for Nibs. And I said Elliott or Savage, just wait.
Right, fine.
And then I'd put Wareham as the striker, and I'd probably put Garcia as the left winger, just to see. Because I think that like Garcia, I think it's okay. Garcia does a lot of good things in possession, but he struggles like out of possession at the moment because he's 16, and like there are just things that you can do with a little bit of football IQ and intelligence and experience that will put off a 16-year-old. And like you see similar passes and things beat him consistently because he's still working it out, which is fine. In possession, he's incredibly talented. I don't think that I think Campbell now is probably locked a place in, but with Kelvin out, I think that Garcia might be the best dribbler with the ball we have available there. So I'd quite like to see him go further up the pitch because I think that he's done enough to, continue playing with the first team, but I don't necessarily think that should be in defense if Dorset is available. So that's where I'm at with all that.
I mean, that kind of splits us quite nicely moves us quite nicely into the Newport game because there were players that I looked at in that game and thought, despite the opposition, despite the competition, despite the fact there was 1,800 people in the stadium, which is really quite sad in a lot of respects. But I can't. Yeah. I'm not going to turn into the attendance police on it.
It's dark up on a Tuesday or Wednesday night or whatever, isn't it? Against Newport, it is what it is.
It's hard. It's hard to sell those tickets, right? It's really, really hard to sell those tickets. But in terms of individual players, so anyone who saw my post-match video for the Tilehurst end will know that I picked out a few players, and one of them was Jaden Wareham. And I kind of said to Sim, and I was like, "Is this a bit harsh?" He was like, "No." All I said was that he needs to refine his finishing, needs to work on his finishing, because if he's going to play in that striker role, he needs to be getting more shots off, and frankly, trying to get a few more goals. To put it in really simple terms. However, I do really like him as a player for the reasons that you stated, Ross, in terms of his hold-up play, in terms of his physicality. In terms of the enjoyment that he just shows when he plays, like he looks like he just wants to play football. He's very, very energetic. He's very committed to what he does. when he does score, I think his celebrations are excellent. I know some people are like, don't do that, but I think it's great.
Nibs asking him to do it this time. Like, even if he wasn't thinking, Nibs is already doing this. So I don't think he was telling him he needed to substitute. I think
it was quite funny because it was almost like, just do it for those 5 people that are right in front of us. And I was myself and Sim were 2 of those people, really. Hey, so listen, it was an interesting game. It was very, very cold up there, I have to say, very, very cold, very poorly attended. But the way in which some of those players applied themselves in that situation, the cat is going ballistic here. Like, I'm going to have to feed him in a minute.
How much were the tickets to that game, out of interest?
£10.
£10. See, that's how much the FA Cup should be too. Like, it's a cup game.
We'll get into that in a minute, I'll tell you. But going back to Garcia, I thought he was excellent. I really do. And I said to Sim during the game, the temperament on him is incredible because, Newport, we didn't have it all our own way. Like, they were quite physical in the way in which they wanted to approach the game and the way in which they did play the game. And he had to take a lot of kicks, a lot of whacks. He had to stand up to a lot of, what I call professional aggression, really. And he did really, really well. The other player that I really like at the moment, I have to say, is Shea Spencer in the middle. He really does look, obviously incredibly raw, given his lack of appearances and lack of experience. But there's something about the way that he moves the ball and the way that he controls the game in the middle that I really, really like. And, I know there are a few eyebrows raised when Lewis Wing was mentioned or mentioned as starting. But you need players like that around him. He had Charlie Savage and Ben Elliott against Fleetwood when he played for the first team in the FA Cup. Didn't have that at Exeter. Sorry, not Exeter, Cheltenham, in the same competition as Newport. But he did have it on Tuesday night. And there was a lot of positives to that performance. It was incredibly difficult watching in the first half the amount of shots we had and for them to not go in. But the overall perseverance of the team and the overall way in which those players handled the situation, I thought was really, really positive. And
can I say something about that, by the way?
Yeah, of course.
Shots rather than and not scoring. I know it's frustrating, but in a game against Newport where we eventually ended up winning, I didn't get to see the game, but from the highlights, it looked to me like Newport were shocking. Because the amount of times even in the 2 minutes of highlights, I could see Elliott or Wing just had a cavern of space. And I mean, they didn't seem to know who Lewis Wing was, to the point where it's like, you do know that if you just leave him, he's just going to pick your team apart, right? And I would think you would know that about, every team's got a talisman center mid or something that can do that.
By the time
going to have the ball, and
by the time we scored, they probably had 10 men behind the ball, maybe. For most, they kind of camped out, and that's what made it even more difficult, because obviously when you're trying to play through a brick wall, however good that brick wall is, it became very, very difficult to be able to do that. And there was some classic comments that you would have loved. Just shoot, get it forward. Yeah, you would have loved it.
So many shots, which is good. I think it's good that they, even if they didn't score, I think it's good that they were able to generate that many shooting opportunities. Is kind of my point. Reading kind of needed, I think, to, again, they've been good attacking in transition, but not quite as good at breaking down a packed defense, unless they get something really great, like the piece of skill from Chem Campbell against Stevenage that got us that point. They're not the best at breaking down packed defenses. And so to face a packed defense of players who are not as good as you, I think is a really good opportunity for the players to just kind of work on their routines and their systems and the way in which they cycle the ball and the way in which they look for attacks, because all of the obviously things happen spontaneously and naturally on the football field, but they also have set plays and things that they're trying, and set movements and things like that they're trying. So just the chance to see those movements working and to grow in confidence, I think this is a really good thing, the Newport game. So I'm glad they're into the next round of that cup.
Well, I was going to ask you that, because after the Fleetwood game, I'm talking about different competitions here, but there was a lot of people we don't need another game. It's a game too far. And it's It's not. Like, it makes me laugh when people say it's a game too far in the league. It's like these are scheduled games, right? You might, it's not like they went, you're going to play 2 games in a week. Actually, no, we're going to bolt on another one for fun. Like, you know that's the workload that you're going to have to get through as a football club. And when, we've had it a few times where we've lost at the end of like a 3-game week or whatever, away, and people go, it's a game too far. Well, what does that mean? Like, it's not, and with the cup, I still stand by this. I wanted to get your opinion on this because we didn't talk about it last time. The more games that we are able to play in the FA Cup and in the Garage Cup, for me is a positive, because those younger players can then kind of break away from the under-21s setup. And I'm not saying that's not competitive, because it is, because most of us listen to this will have seen at least one under-21s game over the last couple of seasons, and the standard is pretty good, but nothing replicates playing in a first team fixture, in terms of that development. And I just feel that the more opportunities we get to break these players in terms of the Reading way of playing and kind of up the ante a little bit, the better, really. I mean, where do you stand on this kind of extra game stuff and getting through, rounds of cups and all this kind of stuff, really?
So I think I was going to say that, like, I feel positive about the FA Cup and the Car Cup, the EFL Trophy, and that I don't care about the League Cup. And I think that's not quite it. I think it's just that I would prefer to be in the FA Cup and the EFL Trophy. So that's worked out nicely. Because the FA Cup is it's fantastic. It's a storied competition. Cup magic, all that nonsense. I believe in it. I like it. I like what is it? It's usually like the second round is the first round on like BBC and ITV and all that kind of stuff. And that was always a fun weekend. So I just like the FA Cup. I like being in it. The League Cup to me feels a bit more like, I could see why like some fans would think that's like a game too far at that stage of the season, because it comes very early on, and Reading were put together pretty good early. Reading had put together a pretty good start, and I think that if we had to take Craig or Wing or Savage up to, I don't know, Grimsby or like Scunthorpe on a Tuesday night when we had like another game like a few days, then I could see it maybe being a bit too much. The EFL Trophy though is a winnable cup for us. Like there's no reason that we can't be, there's no reason that we couldn't win that, if we put together a decent run. So I'm happy to be in that cup. I think that any tournament where we can like continue to try and pick up wins and just continue to try and build some momentum, get into the habit of winning again, I think that's good. And as the trophy goes on, if Reading continue to progress, I would expect that more and more first team players will come into the squads, as each round progresses. So it's just more chance to build momentum, more chance to kind of build a good feeling. So I'm quite into it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the next round, from my understanding, we could draw Colchester, Burton, Walsall, Peterborough, Wickham, Charlton, or Exeter. Okay. Now, when that draw is made, I don't know. It used to be done on Soccer AM. I know we talked about Soccer AM a couple of weeks ago, but it used to be done in the first part of Soccer AM, way back. When this is done, I've absolutely no idea. But, you look at that group of teams and you think, is there anything really? I mean, Wickham maybe, but like...
Wickham have had a good start, and you'd think they'll come back to earth at some point soon. Yeah. Peterborough will continue to, be relatively threatening, as will Exeter throughout the season, I suspect. But again, I don't see a team on there that Reading can't beat. Yeah.
Especially at home, and that's the thing, because I was trying to clarify if it was a 2-leg thing, if we were going old school Champions League or whatever, but it's literally just one game, bang, next round. Yeah. So, ideally you'd want that at home, and you'd want, well, not want, I mean, any one of those teams would be okay at home, I think, really. So yeah, that's where we currently stand on that particular competition. We do know where we are with the FA Cup, drawn at home to Harbour Town on the 1st of December, 2 p.m. kickoff. It's been moved to Sunday at that time for the overseas television market, would you believe? Quite incredible that there could be more people watching it in
We've got
Denmark
voracious
than there are in the
appetite.
stadium, potentially.
We're just mad about the second round of the FA Cup over here.
Exactly.
In the
I mean,
international market.
how much money the Football Association are getting from selling that, I don't know. I have no idea. And how much we will get as a result of that, again, no idea. But we got a few questions around that in the mailbag, which we're getting to right now. That drives to a close the recap. Point against Stevenage into the next round of the Garage Cup, hopefully at home. We are going to get into the mailbag now. I'm going to take a short break. I'm going to feed this cat because he's driving me nuts. He's just sat on my notes now, so I'm going to have to move him. So I'll be back in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. See you in a bit.
Be loud and be proud and back the boys and make some noise. Come on, you Rs!
Shout out to this week's podcast sponsor, ZCZ Films, showing that age is no barrier to being a hula hoop.
Welcome back to episode 396 of the Tilehurst podcast. I was frantically trying to find my piece of paper, but it is 396. Very much, rapidly approaching episode 400. I have to think about that, really. Really going to have to pull my finger out on that. But yeah, that's coming up in 4 episodes' time, in case you can't do your maths. So we'll be there. We've got a couple of bits and bobs, really, kind of loose ends to tie up with the mailbag. Tom Sheeran starts with the question that I think has really, I say, rattled people. That's not right. There has been a lot of discussion around the Harbour Town game coming up and the ticket prices.
Ruffled
exactly.
Feathers.
That's a nice way of that's a good way of putting it. Interested to know your views on the club's ticketing decision for the FA Cup game versus some team in Leicestershire, I think. Nice. We'll deal with that part first because he talks a little bit about Campbell again, but we'll come back to that. Let's deal with these ticket prices then, because the club have stuck with their ticketing pricing of £15. I think I said after the Fleetwood game on this very pod that I thought £15 was too much for a first round game. I still think it's too much for a second round game, but I can either pay that and go or not. That's really the simplicity of the situation, and so I'm happy to pay that because I want to go and watch the game. Ultimately, from a personal point of view, I want to go and watch it, and I can pay that. Fortunate to be able to do that, so I will go to the game regardless. Do you, despite the fact that we're not football economics, Ross, do you still feel that £15 is too much for this type of game?
This is why I asked you how much the Car Cup game cost, so I could work out what the difference was. And so it's a £5 difference. Which I don't know if £5 covers the magic of the cup or whatever cliche you want to throw at it. So I do feel like they could probably cost £10. I will say you get a really skewed perspective of sports tickets when you come out here because they're all so expensive. Like if you want to go see like the hockey team or whatever, you'll pay like £80 or £90 or something like that. So and especially like sitting in like proximity to the pitch in some of the ways that you can at Reading, it always seems cheap to me. But again, that is a luck thing, and I understand that these tickets could be cheaper. With them opening less of the stadium too, it does feel like they're just really trying to maximize their margins with this kind of stuff, and so maybe it is related to the short-term funding of the club. Who knows? But you do wonder if it sometimes causes issues because more people would show up if it was £10 versus £15, and then you'd make money back perhaps. But again, I'm not a ticketing, economist or anything like that. So, it's tricky.
I realise I said football economics, and what I meant was football economists.
I thought you meant soccer economics. So I just went with that.
if anyone was offended by what I said at the start of the mailbag because I got the word wrong, I'm really
If
sorry.
anybody came into this mailbag thinking that you or I were financial analysts, they are in the wrong podcast. Nobody's worried about that.
You need to look at my bank balance to realise that's not the case. I tell you.
Yeah.
Listen, what do I think, Tom? I think that it's difficult. I don't think it's as simple as going, we'll just charge £10, because actually they've got to weigh up how many more people would come at that price. And as a result of that, as Ross said, they've got to think about margins, because if they go, right, well, we're going to do it at £10, we've got to open more stands, we've got to pay more people to man the bars and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Do you then lose the money? So Reading know that there is just going to be blunt, a hardcore group of people that are going to go to every home game they can. And whether that's under 21s, whether that's first team cup games, doesn't matter, right? So if they say, we know we're going to get at least 1,500 Reading fans at £15, that guarantees them X amount. Again, we're not into economics, so we can't work that out. But if that is the cost, that's what they get minus any margins. They didn't open the gates, and it was frustrating against Fleetwood. But actually, that means you've got to pay more people to open the other gate. So there's a balance to be had, and I think the problem is that because there was so much, in my opinion, wrongful disgruntlement with the social media team and the way that those posts are presented, and possibly correctly with the club in general in terms of the overall vibe, people are just looking to take pot shots and go, oh well, I'm not paying that. You can't beg me to go. It's embarrassing. All this sort of stuff. But what I think the club are relying on is those people that will just go blindly, but to any game, and pay that price and sit there and watch the game and then go home. So it's not easy. And, I saw a lot of people saying, well, look how many Harbour Town have sold. Great for them. Fantastic. If they're going to bring 2,000 people, whatever it is they're going to bring, superb. Good luck to them. Personally, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, I couldn't care less about Harbour Town. I couldn't care less about their big day out. I honestly couldn't care. I'm not trying to be difficult, boys. But let's make it a special day for them. We want to win the game, right? Yeah. We want to get through to the third round. Why are we making it a special day for them?
Thumping them. Let's give them something they'll never forget.
I'm not.
We got beat 9-0.
I'm not trying to be, the bad guy in this. I'm just saying, I just find it hilarious that people are like, well, let's make it a big day for them. Most of them couldn't point to where it was on a map. So what are we talking about? Do you know what I mean?
Harbour's not in the Middle Ages. I don't know. Apparently it's somewhere in Leicestershire based on the email earlier.
Market Harbour, mate. Nice place. Nice place.
It could be somewhat embarrassing if there are more Harbour Town fans than Reading fans. I will say that much. But,
it could happen, and we just get on with it. But we've been burnt in these games before. Last year we had the Eastleigh debacle. The year before that, we had Kidderminster in the third round. These aren't games that are givens. If this was a game away, I would be panicking. I would be really panicking about it. As it is, with the quality that we should possess for that game by the time it rolls around, and injuries coming back and all the rest of it, I think will be too much for them. And I hope we are, because I want us to get through into this game to keep this momentum going. But the ticket prices are what they are. I don't agree with them. I will still pay it. So
and you're right, by the way. It is novel for Harbour Town because they're coming to an EFL bowl and doing the whole normal Saturday experience, whatever. But for us, like you're saying, we've played 2 non-league clubs in the last few years in the FA Cup and been embarrassed versus both of them. I can understand that that Reading fans aren't super excited about this, or that it just doesn't. I'm kind of interested because I want to see what that Harbour Town team looks like.
Yeah.
But I want to win the game and stuff them. That's the only kind of narrative that I'm interested in this is can we finally beat a blinking non-league team in the FA Cup, please, and just show that we have some stability at the club to be able to just our floor can now beat
removed, and we get over it because they're still trying. We didn't talk about it on the pod, but there was the anniversary in inverted commas of the Arsenal game. I'm still suffering something from that. When you kind of 4-0 up and you lose 7-5 or whatever it was like that. That was traumatic. Yeah, that's a game that is very difficult to get over.
All right. So what you're saying is we let them get 4-0 up, and then we beat them 7-5.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But look, their manager said some really nice things this week. It was really, complimentary, and he's obviously trying to do his bit to drum up support for a non-league side, and fair play to him. I hope that they have a good season, after the game, and they carry on moving to where they want to be. But for me as a Reading fan, I always want to win. We played Newport in a week. Newport, a club, very, very, I say close to my heart. It's far too dramatic, but I got a lot of time for Newport as a place. I got a lot of time for the club. I was delighted we won 3-0 because I'm a Reading fan, right? And I'm not saying people are going, "Oh, let's make it nice for Harbour Town." That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I am saying is I don't understand this narrative. Like, we want to make it nice for them. We just want to win. We just want, as many fans who want to come to the game from our point of view to cheer on our team to get through to the third round of the cup. That's what I want as a Reading supporter. So we'll see how that pans out. But I think, you're right, Ross, and I think other people are right. I think there could potentially be a situation where there's more Harbour Town fans and Reading fans, which would be quite unreal, to be honest with you.
I think it'd be funny. I know it's not the best look, but again, I've just put out all the reasons why it might happen. And if it does happen, you got to laugh rather than cry, don't you?
Yeah.
So I had to scribble down my short list of places that Ben likes. Newport on the list. You got Newport and Tilehurst are on the list. Oh, which is all right. There we go. So,
I said Market Harbour's all right.
Market Harbour, all right, perfect. All right, move on to the next question.
Well, it's still from Tom, actually. He says, also really impressed with Campbell over the last few games. He's really come on and is now way ahead of a Kande in terms of selection, in my opinion. Thoughts?
I just agree with that. I agreed with that a few weeks ago, and that's kind of, you can go back and there's a Campbell video that just talks about what he does for the team and what he did last season and sort of how that compares to Femi Aziz. I'm not going to say that he's just as good as Femi Aziz because he's not shown that just yet. But he's not played as well as Femi did last season yet. But he's certainly been improving over the past few weeks. Just really nice assist again for the. I'm not sure if they're crediting it as an assist on FOTMOB. I'm just taking a look now.
When I looked, they didn't. But
I've got it now. Luckily,
they have. Okay,
sort that out. I thought a really good performance against Stevenage. Tells you how much of the ball we had. That he had 31 attempted passes during the game, up in the final third, and he completed 84% of them, which, created 3 chances, protected the ball pretty well, took almost 50 touches, which we know how few touches our forwards can take. Sometimes they get pretty isolated. 8 touches in the box. Sam Smith often gets 3 or 4. I think that his performance against Stevenage was good, and like I said earlier, it's just the culmination of a player who, while he hasn't been guaranteed a start the whole time he's been in Reading, he has been guaranteed minutes. And I think his confidence is growing, and I hope it continues.
You asked your own question on the mailbag. You said, after getting a look at both Wareham and Nibs as the centre forward, who would you start if Smith isn't good to go for the next one? RFC Martyr, I think that's Peter Martyr, isn't it? Just rebranded. I think it is. Yeah. He says, got to be Nibs for me. Wareham is not yet clinical enough and doesn't seem to have that striker's selfish attitude. I want my striker to think shoot. I want my striker to think shoot first, shoot second, and pass third. Does that make sense?
Yeah. He means he wants to, he really wants him to think about shooting. His first 2 reads are shoot.
Oh, shoot. Right, yeah, and pass third. Okay. Nibs has shown he's happy to have a crack at goal at every opportunity. Reese White, who's recently started writing for us. I think he does the previews. Do the previews? I think so.
I think so, yeah.
But yeah, Reese White, check him out. He's got quite a few articles on the website, and they will obviously come up on social media as they are produced as well. He would play Tuma, or I would play Tuma. Don't think that Wareham has what it takes yet, and Nibs is too useful in other positions to put there. I think Chem Campbell would do a good job up front as well if they're willing to try him there. What do you think about Tuma? I would say Tuma. Shouldn't say
I
that.
saw that
Tuna.
one. No, I think that too. I always think Basil Tuna. So it is what it is. His name sounds like two foods or a combined delicious food. Anyway, I think that Tuma's a bit raw still. I get that he's super fast, but I think we saw against who did we play? Cheltenham. We only played Cheltenham and Exeter anymore. So I got confused there. When we played Cheltenham, I thought Tuma struggled to get into the game, and then he was eventually withdrawn. So, yeah, no, I think it's very much between Wareham and Nibs at this point. Personally, I do get the Tuma interest, and there's certainly room to progress for Jaden Wareham, but I like the way that he brings others into play. I would like for him to get some more goals too, but he's got 3 so far this season for the full men's team, and he's had 2 in the last few weeks. So, again, slow steps. I'm not expecting double figures from Jaden Wareham this season at all, but if he can get himself, closer to 10 than 5, I think that's going to be a pretty good return for a young striker. Striker's a really hard position to play.
Yeah, especially in this team.
Yeah, but especially I honestly think, especially just the way football is now. Every kid, no kid wants to be the striker anymore. They want to be the guy playing behind the striker, doing the creativity. Yeah. They want to be Bruno Fernandes and Kevin De Bruyne and all this kind of stuff. They don't want to be a big number 9 like Chris Wood. So I do think it's a really tricky position to find yourself in the modern age, just because of how lots of different coaches have very odd ways in which they use the striker. Ruben just doesn't have his striker take that many touches, and that's always going to limit you as a player. So I think Wareham has enough. And like I said, I would probably go with Garcia on the left, Wareham in the middle. You stick Nibs in the midfield with one of Elliott and Savage, and then wing, obviously, and then Dorset goes at left back. So that's probably what I would do if Smith and Kelvin aren't available.
Well, we're led to believe that Smith and Mbenge are back for the next league game, which is against Peterborough on the 23rd.
There we go.
23rd of November. Yeah, why am I saying November it's not going to be the 23rd of December, is it? Donut. Yeah, so that we got a week off now, we've got a weekend off now, nothing next week, and then back at it a week from now. So, Yuri wraps up by saying Wareham surely, Nibs is much more effective in midfield. I don't know where I stand with that, actually. I don't know. I would probably go with Wareham. Yeah, I think I probably would.
Because Wareham's shown enough for me that he's probably second choice, and then Nibs again is just too useful in the midfield. You can't really disrupt what he's up to. So, that's where I go.
Tom Hill, who I think he's still with us. He hasn't been transferred out. Put it that way. I think he's kind of just
taking a report recently, something like that. So he's around.
Yeah, I think he's taking a break generally. I think he's doing studying and whatnot. But life is busy for a lot of people. But we're always here for you, Tom. Come back and do some writing for us. Would be good when you can. If not, keep chipping away at the podcast questions, because we appreciate those, Tom. What's one Reading FC related hot take, unpopular opinion? Hold on. I'm having a mad with reading these today. What's one Reading FC related and one that's anything? Oh, right. Okay. Right.
He wants an unpopular opinion, one Reading related and one just general.
You're great. You haven't got the tweets in front of you. You're just,
I'm
it's been a long week for me. It's all right. It's like 9 o'clock in the evening for me. What is it? Like 4 o'clock for you?
4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's a Friday, so I feel this is my fault.
It's still Friday for me. It's still Friday for me. Okay, so he's saying the Reading FC hot take, unpopular opinion is that Kelvin, I hope he... I mean, this is a disaster. This is a disaster. Whichever Kelvin you're thinking about, but if it's Kelvin E, then it's absolute toilet. This opinion. Mine are that Kelvin is a conference Premier level player. Oh,
Yeah. Oh dear. Oh dear.
What do we do with that?
We've seen a lot of academy players like Jamari Clark, like who did something good in like a EFL league and then have just dropped straight to non-league. So like that pathway is wide open. So I get where he's
well trodden as well. Well trodden.
I don't think Kelvin is. I mean, like Kelvin E's got things that he needs to develop in his game, but like he's also got big old long legs and he's good at going around people. So I think he'll be fine. He's got enough physical attributes, Kelvin, that he'll be fine in the EFL.
He's one of my favourite players, my current favourite players. So I don't know what that says about me or him or Tom. I don't know.
If you get his name on the back of a shirt, I want to have this sometime soon. Someone get his name on the back of your shirt and tell me how long it takes the club shop to get that done, because that's a lot of letters.
I'll see you in 5 months.
Yeah, yeah, all right. You can have this shirt when it's on offer.
Yeah, exactly. There was a guy playing for Newport whose name was so long it almost went in the arc of a rainbow.
Nice, like the pure
number 9, and it literally, it went all the way around. I was like, wow, that's. He had a right game actually. He put himself about, put it that way. Nice. And then his other unrelated. What am I doing? His non-Reading FC, his just life take is that all hot drinks are S word.
I know a few people like that, and it's weird. I don't get it. Like, just find one. Like, I like...
just get one.
Just get one. Like, it's not just like, find flavors that you like, put them into a drink. Now you like what it is. Yeah, like, it's like every cooking thing. Like, oh, I don't like this vegetable. Okay, fry it, not awful, roast it with a bunch of oil and salt. Now you like this vegetable. Like, everything can be modified to be better in the food world. Like, you're not limited to whatever comes in the packet.
He's put even tea. I don't drink tea. I don't like
tea either. No, I drink coffee.
But coffee, like, come on, mate. Like, it's perfect coffee season now.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'm
trying to think
nothing better now. I'm going to stop giving player-related ones because I feel like I'm being mean about players this week with asking like Wareham versus Nibs and asking about Garcia and stuff like that. My unpopular hot take Reading opinion is that I'm just about done hearing about like the 106 team and all that kind of stuff now. I love them. They're a huge part of my like football upbringing and all that kind of stuff. And I'll always sing, we've got the record 106 and all that kind of stuff because it's funny.
Yeah.
But I don't need any more interviews with people from around that time or anything like that. Like I think that we're in a different era of the club now, very much, and I'm always just more interested in what's going on now.
Mine is that ex-players from successful eras are very quick to tell everybody who will listen, particularly Reading fans, that the club is a mess and it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. Travesty. I'm trying to look. I cannot talk today. I was kind of combining 2 words. I'll just go with travesty. Whatever. The way that the club is, it's so utterly tedious for me because it's like, is it? No. Really? Like, thanks very much. And I've got respect for the ex-players. Like, I think they're great, but like the way they come out and go, it's terrible. I know, because we're literally living it, mate. Like, we're literally there, living it every single day of every single week.
It is frustrating. And then those those quotes are only picked up by the Reading media. Just it's like, oh, this other person you remember thinks it's bad too. On the bonfire.
Have you got £30 million? No. Shut your mouth then. Like, shut up. Do you know what I mean? Like, just don't say anything.
Sorry, I was trying to save it and make sure it was still loving towards the ex-players. Just like we know, but I think it's just because it's been going on for so long. So that you don't have to speak anymore, I've got an email, and we always love an email.
Can I do my last non-related Reading FC?
All right, go. Yeah.
I think meerkats are overrated.
Okay. Yeah.
I just think they're pointless. Every single petting zoo, well, even though you're not allowed to pet them, any wildlife institution worth their salt has got meerkats, and that tells you everything about it.
They are definitely like conference tier red pandas. Like, just get a red panda. That's much better. Like, they're cute. They do the little startle thing. They're not, you can't compare them. So yeah, they're much better. Anyway, all right, I'm going to read this email out if that's all right. Yeah. All right. So this comes from Alan Scott. Or Scotty. So as a long-standing Royals overseas fan in Northern Ireland, I always attend a couple games each season. Like all responsible fathers, my son has been conditioned into a fine, loyal Royal also. He now works in London and joins me on my match day visits. However, this season I will have to fulfill my commitment alone, as Johnny has taken himself across the world on a 6-month adventure. Oh, very nice. Enjoy yourself, Johnny. So I'm seeking some expert advice from you and Ross. He's talking to you, Ben. On what Reading home game I should attend alone. He says, being alone, he needs to guarantee the game he picks will provide the full day entertainment experience and critically a solid victory to subdue any loneliness. So he's short. You're just laughing at this, man. And so he's written you a nice email. So his own shortlist in no particular order. Wrexham, as we need to put them in their place. Huddersfield, as he never forgets a Wembley defeat. Or Wickham, and he just writes, need I say any more? He says he's ready to book flights, so all he needs is the date. So what are we doing? Are we doing Wrexham, Huddersfield, or Wickham then? He's just lost it. First things first, Alan. There's definitely no expert advice here, so I would go for Wickham because they're way on their high horse right now, and they do need stuffing.
I'm worried that Alan thinks that there is like. Do you talk about experience?
He wants to have the full day entertainment experience. Yeah. It won't be that because you won't be on the pitch at halftime.
Yeah, that's a long way off at the moment. Okay, out of those games, I would probably go Wrexham personally, because I think by the time Christmas is done and dusted, I was just looking at our fixtures, so. Just to kind of go over those. So if you go from the Christmas period, which I would always class from like the 14th, like the home game before Christmas, sure. Blackpool at home, Lincoln away, Northampton at home, Mansfield at home, and then Cambridge away. They are some really nice games to have. Cambridge away, I think we'll start off the year, with a win there. Mansfield and Northampton at home. I think they're really good games to have. And when we're looking at that block of fixtures, those 5, you'd be looking for what? You wouldn't be disappointed with 9 points, would you really? 9-10 points?
No. I think that we were better than Wrexham in the game that we lost to them 3-0. It's just 100%. Wrexham scored, quickly.
Apart from the goals, we were great.
Apart from the 4 goals.
Apart from the 4 goals. Who said that? Pauno. Right at the end of it. Yeah.
He was good for one of those.
Oh, God. That was such an awful comment to make. And I was like, yeah, and?
Apart from the 4 goals. Yeah. Anyway, I think Wickham, because I do think they need stuffing. And it's always fun to beat Wickham. And they will crash back down to earth. And I'd like to be part of that crashing. So good question, Alan. You pick some, but the only thing I will say is that you want to ensure a solid victory, and then you pick 3 decent teams. In that. So, I mean, Reading have we only lost 1 all year at home against Leyton Orient. Yeah. So, hey, Fortress Medeski, Fortress SCL. So, I think you're right.
Alan, when you made your decision, and I'm not massively really appreciate you. Like, we love an email, and thank you very much for getting in touch. I just feel that we need to temper your expectations in terms of the match day experience, because it's not great, if I'm honest. There is very little to do at the stadium currently, apart from watch the players come in and try and guess who's in the car as it pulls up into the car park. Beyond that, there's not much. The hot dogs are okay these days, and I'm not trying to be difficult in terms of the club and anything else, but there isn't a match day experience to speak of at all at the moment. So just temper your expectations a little bit with that. But in terms of games, I'd probably go Wrexham.
Okay, so it's a W team. So not Huddersfield is what we're saying, basically. So we've narrowed it down. You phoned a friend, and the friend has given you two different answers. So you'd definitely not be winning the million if you were on that.
Where's he coming from? Where's Alan coming from?
Northern Ireland. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Northern Ireland. So not too far.
I think either Wrexham or Wickham is a good shout, really. But
right.
Honestly, let us know what you decide to do. I'm generally intrigued now as to know which game you're going to pick, to be honest.
You never know. I think those are all good ones, though. I'm a bit of a stickler for going to games against teams that I consider weaker and going, we can beat these. So I want to go see this, basically. But hey, good for you. You're going to go support the team. What should be a more tricky game. So hope you enjoy yourself, whatever you pick. And like you said, thank you for your email. We love an email.
We don't have a preview, but the final thing that I would say is that we have an article out.
Oh yeah.
I say we. Tilehurst then have an article out. Sim's written it. Where is it now? Yeah, he basically has a broader look at how Ruben Sellers is getting on in the Reading FC dugout. That's available on the website. That's available via Facebook. That's available via X. So have a little read of that. It's a good article. Sim got the rare like from me on that one. Have you got some stats around that, Ross? Did you want to talk about that?
I want to talk about it a little bit because I do think it's a good article and give it a read. You can find it on, I'm just going to fully plug now, Blue Sky. So you can read it obviously on the Tilehurst End website. You can find that on the Tilehurst End Blue Sky cross promotion. So there you go. Do give it a read. One of the things that I thought was interesting was Sim highlighted that Reading's performance based on player ratings, so based on the nonsense that I come up with, admittedly, was best during the period before the Cohig thing collapsed. And so I thought it was interesting, the framing with the Cohig thing, and that's possibly very much like a big part of that. I thought one of the other things with that, obviously those games were earlier in the season. And I was just kind of looking at it, and recently we've been talking a lot about how I think the players look tired, and I think the Smith's injury is as much from fatigue as anything else. Obviously, if you're just hitting a tired, a damaged muscle over and over again, and it's tired, like it's going to break down more easily.
It's all those games that were too far.
All those games that were too far. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so this is me claiming injury specialism as well as soccernomics specialism. So don't worry about that. But anyway, my basic point was those games were a lot earlier in the season, and I think that Reading have gotten a little tired, and this is kind of showing the the size of the squad, and kind of showing why a lot of people were not and are not as optimistic as myself about the team this season. And I think that's for good reason. Like, you can see what's going on. It's right there in front of you. The team is not quite playing as well when they are, in my opinion, more tired. I think that there have been some changes to like how we play, and opposition have got more tape to be able to like work against that now and work out ways to beat it. But at the same time, I do think that the team's gotten a bit tired. But anyway, Sim's written a really good article, and it already made my brain go off on some tangent, rabbit hole, whatever. So it must be a pretty good one. So yeah, go on the tilehurstend.com and check it out on Ruben's approval through the first 19 games I think it's been in all competitions this season. So all those too many games.
It's a good one. I mean, I think there have been. By the way, we finished the mailbag. We're just chatting now. So if you're waiting for anything else other than questions or whatever, then that's done.
Don't come to
Which
me. Stick
well,
around.
no, I'm not saying, no, I think they'll see it to the end, to be honest with you, and they should, because we value your ears and hopefully you value our voices. But there have been a lot of rumblings about this away form and how that there are still people out there that will blame Dai Young for the away form, which I think, if I'm honest, is a stretch. He doesn't set up the tactics. He doesn't put the team out there and all the rest of it. I understand the overall ethos of blaming him for a lot of the stuff, and likewise not having a strong enough squad to compete in these games or seemingly compete in these games is down to him. But when we didn't win on Saturday, there was a few people go, "Well, it's just Dai Young's fault," which I think is too easy. I think it's a bit of a cop out in some respects, and I really don't think that we are understanding of the problem as to why we're not picking up wins away from home. And it's difficult because last year I was like, well, it's a culture thing, like it's a mentality thing, but we've shown at home that that's not the case because we've done incredibly well. As Ross said, earlier, losing one game this season at home, which is really, really impressive given how short and small our squad is. But he is coming under fire a little bit for these away performances. And I think reading through Sim's article is quite a timely reminder of the things that he has been able to achieve and kind of how well he's doing. And, what he's had to weather in terms of that, potential player disgruntlement, people not getting paid on time. All of these emotional factors come into it. I mean, if we collectively, Ross, could solve the away day problem, in inverted commas, then we'd obviously be not sat here on a podcast on a Friday night chatting
Football
about
coaches. Yeah.
football coaches. But like, what fundamentally do you think the issue is with the way that we are playing away from home?
I think that some of it comes down to the age and experience of some of the players, and I think that most of them can deal with a game state of 0-0 very well, and even like being down. I think that this Reading team reacts pretty well, and they do try to keep doing what they were doing and hit. But when a team is chasing the game away from home or something like that, or they are really, putting Reading under the cosh when we're away from home, the crowd are getting on, getting behind their team and all these kinds of things. I want to discount that it's difficult for young players. Andre Garcia is 16. I don't count Bindon in the young player thing anymore, really, because he seems to be unflappable, but there's a lot of young players all over that field. And they're human beings. Like, I do think that there is some impact from the away crowd for sure. I mean, that's been shown in data. And talking about data, I think that, like I said earlier, Reading in this particular Stevenage game generated more XG than they did in the 4-1 win against Crawley. So if you ran, in a perfect simulation, those games again 100 times, Reading will win the Stevenage one more often than they win the Crawley one. So I mean, there are issues at home as well as there are away, and so I think it will be very interesting. It's making me realize, just to do like since last November, so for the last 12 months, just like an XG analysis on away versus home. So that's something for me for the future, basically. But I think that the away issue is not as pronounced as it was a year ago, for sure. But even maybe 6 months ago, I think that Reading, other than that Bolton game and maybe the Wrexham game, but I think that Reading were still pretty good in the Wrexham game and deserved a point.
I mean, if we were looking at just this season, and that sounds a bit ridiculous, but bear with it. So if we didn't have what we had last year and the year before in terms of the away form or lack of away form, do you think people would be that disgruntled and upset with it based on just this season?
I mean, just this season, then maybe you'd be like more without the context of like what's happened in recent like years. I think you'd be a bit more upset about the away form this year because we've only won one away so far, and not picked up more points when we should have. Maybe I would say maybe drop points against Birmingham, maybe drop points against Stevenage. But these are points that would have us like up, competing for the automatic spots, let alone, the playoff spots. We're 1 point outside of sixth. So I think that it's the difference between a really a good start to the season and a great start to the season. And again, like you draw your away games and you win your home games. And I think since November last year, Reading have like a little over a point on average per game away from home. It's kind of fine at the moment, So yes, I do think that people would be more annoyed if they're just looking at the context of this season, because we have only got one win.
I mean, we picked up 5 points from 7 league games. Yeah, I mean, it's not promotion winning form, but it's certainly not.
Yeah, it's a little down from last year, if just in pure numbers in that case. So again, like those dropped points versus Birmingham and Stevenage, they really come back to haunt you at that point because that's 4 more points that would take you up and above 1 point per game on the road. So it's the little differences, the tiny little things that don't go your way, and suddenly you're 4 points down. So yeah, it's quite interesting. Good question. Read the article.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about it away from last time, but it does keep coming back to this. Obviously, we are in action against Peterborough on the 23rd of November, so we've got kind of a week off. We are planning to have a special guest on next week. We just need to tie up with them. So we'll probably look to do that next week on episode 397. Is it 97 next week? Yeah, God, these numbers are just getting nutty.
You'll get there, don't worry.
Yeah, just one follows the other. But yeah, we're looking to that next week, and then obviously back to normal rotation with review of the Peterborough game, and that takes us into. Now we play Barnsley that week as well. I forgot about that. That's a bit of a weird week. That so Peterborough and Barnsley away in the league, and then Harborough at home on the Sunday in the cup. So yeah, pods are coming thick and fast. Games are coming thick and fast. Positivity isn't at the moment, but it's peaks and troughs as always. Hopefully we get something back. There's been some statements this week from various stakeholders. Sell Before We Die have pushed out a statement which I thought was okay. I thought it was pretty good. I don't think it's going to get the desired response from the club. I can't imagine that there are lots of people in the club that deliberately, it's going to sound ridiculous, but deliberately withholding information. What I'm trying to say is I think there are people within the club that are trying to get this information out. I just think there are key individuals that are deliberately blocking that for whatever reason. That's my take on it. I don't think that the employees at the club are deliberately trying to make fools of the fans. I just think their hands are tied, really. But I do understand the frustration. I do understand the anxiety because we all feel it. We all feel it every day. We talked about it a lot on this pod. But the only thing that we can control at the moment really is sort of trying to attend games and just supporting the players on the pitch. I know that sounds really simplistic to a lot of people, but if you're anything like me, we're pretty tired of it. Pretty tired of this roller coaster. So I'm just trying to focus on stuff on the pitch and really go from there. But yeah, we're kind of, that's where we are. So yes. Ross, have you got a raccoon on your hat? I've just noticed that after like an hour and a bit of talking.
Small raccoon on my hat. Yeah.
Love that.
Again, YouTube. Everybody, you can watch these episodes on YouTube if you want to.
Good work.
Yeah, it's just a main artist it's a raccoon with a can of Moxie, which is a disgusting main soda. So don't try Moxie, but the hat is
Moxie.
Good. It's like a raccoon hat. Yeah, it's called Moxie, and it's
What
disgusting.
does it taste like?
It tastes like what I think a lot of English people think root beer tastes like to me. Like a lot of root beer is horrible, and I love root beer. But you get used to it after a while because it's everywhere. But Moxie is just like kicking the can even further down that kind of like cough syrupy direction, which just not for me, really. It's not great. It's very weird. It's like Maine's drink, but it wasn't actually like created here. It was created down in like Pennsylvania and then moved up here. Anyway, I'm now ranting about Maine local sodas. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, let's leave it at that. Yeah, if you want to watch this back for whatever reason, it's on YouTube. Some people have actually said they prefer watching it. I don't know. I don't know if that works or not. We're obviously on audio because you've just listened to us.
You can see my reaction to Ben's nonsense in real time, guys, if you watch it on YouTube. So, give that a go. Maybe, if you come into your feed, just wait a day. Ryan will have the YouTube version out super quick. And it's the international break, so it's not like it's urgent. So, anyway.
You can see me hiding a yawn, which is what I just did. You wouldn't have heard that. You would be none the wiser listening to it, but you will be able to see that. So there we go. Thank you for listening as always. Really, really appreciate it. We know it's tough times. How many times have we said that on these pods? But it's difficult. So we appreciate your questions. We appreciate your likes, your listens, everything. We honestly, we really, really do. And we hope you've enjoyed this one. If you do, without sounding like YouTube, give us a like, give us a retweet, whatever it is you're doing. Recommend us to your friends.
Smash that like button. Hit subscribe, listeners.
Yeah, exactly.
See you next time.
All that sort of stuff. Ross, have a really good weekend. Enjoy your Friday evening. I've spent mine doing this pod because I'm committed to the cause. Look after yourselves, everybody. Try and enjoy the international break. We will see you next week. Come on, you arse.